What's up, guys? It's Zero here. Cyberpunk 2077 ending explained. Let's talk about it. So there are several endings, guys, from Cyberpunk 2077, which is really fascinating. It gives us so much different things to talk about, and I'm going to be doing separate videos talking about each individual ending and really talk about those in depth. This one, though, I'm going to be talking about all the different endings, the obvious, the summary, the requirements, if there are any, and then the consequences of your actions. Obviously, throughout the course of the game, you're making decisions, and those decisions can have very different types of ramifications in terms of the ending, and that's what makes this game so incredibly awesome to talk about. But also, what's really awesome about these endings specifically is us being able to break them down and dissect them in a massive way. So what I got for you today is the ending explained, and we're going to be going over all the different endings, and I'm going to be pulling reference from an article coming to us from Richie Guyon of Game Rant. There are several choices that can be made throughout the gameplay of Cyberpunk 2077, whether it's in the main story, the love interest that V chooses, or the many different endings to play. They all have different consequences as well as their own spin on the dilemma that plagues the main character. By the time the final arc rolls around, V and Johnny have to make a choice in order to rid themselves of the biochip. However, each ending has its own pros and cons that would deeply affect the characters with whom V has a connection. There are plenty of endings in cdprojektred Cyberpunk 2077. All of these decisions occur after meeting Hanako at Embers, but some of these endings have requirements that must be met before the player walks into the meeting with Hanako. As long as players are diligent about completing quests and uncovering everything the game has to offer, they'll find themselves spoiled for options when it comes to one of the many unique ending parts players can pursue with their friends. What you'll see here, guys, is a chart that's going to give you the ending, the summary, requirements if there are any, and then the consequences of that decision. We start with the path of least resistance. V decides to give it all up, choosing not to endanger anyone close to him or her. There are no requirements for this, and the consequence is V ends his own life, sharing one last heartfelt moment with Johnny Silverhand in the process. When we get to the next ending, that is the devil. V decides to help Takamura get his revenge for Saburo Arasaka's death. There's no requirement here, but the consequence is V can choose to have their consciousness merged into Mikoshi or return to Earth to live out their final 6 months. The next ending is the Star. V decides to leave Night City with Panam and the Aldecados. In this requirement, you have to finish the quest Queen of the Highway, and the consequence here is that the Aldecados will storm Arasaka Tower with V, and Panam will take V out of Night City. In the ending for Temperance, V decides to have Johnny Silverhand take their body and return to Night City. Requirement here is that you either complete either Rogue's or Panam's quest lines, and the consequence here is that V's consciousness is erased and Johnny Silverhand returns to Night City in V's body. The next ending is the Sun. V decides to return to Night City in their own body to live out their final days. Within the requirements, complete Rogue's questline up to Blistering Love and ask Rogue for help. And then the consequence here is that V returns to Night City and becomes a legend in the afterlife. And then the last ending is the secret ending, which is where V and Johnny Silverhand storm Arasaka Tower on their own. And in order to get this ending, you have to reach a high affinity level with Johnny Silverhand and wait for 5 minutes when given the choice to ask Panam or Rogue for help. And the consequence here is, depending on the player's choice in Mikoshi, this leads to either the Sun or Temperance ending. So there you have it, guys. You have 6 endings, and each of them are going to have different requirements, if any at all, and there's obviously different consequences for the choices that you make throughout the story. What's really fascinating about this, though, is that it gives you a lot of times to play this game over again, to play through all those different endings and see how, the story unfolds as you go. In my personal opinion, I think all of the endings are really cool in their own right, and I think, obviously those decisions that you make throughout the course of the journey, they do add up in the end. And so a lot of times it's something that I always tell new players who are coming into Cyberpunk 2077 to really take your time when it comes to making those choices, because those choices can really build up in creating relationships or enemies throughout the course of the journey. And as you get to the end, it's really going to come down to a number of these different endings. And what I think is going to be the most fascinating thing, where we go from Cyberpunk 2077 to Cyberpunk Orion, which is going to be the sequel to Cyberpunk 2077, 2077. The question now is which one of these 6 endings are going to translate to the next game, or are they going to go way into the future or way into the past, where any one of these choices doesn't really matter in terms of the narrative and what's going to be canon in the following title. Because there's a lot of talk that Cyberpunk Orion is going to be a direct sequel to Cyberpunk 2077. There's also talk, though, that they're going to go way into the past or way into the future, where V is no longer a character or is not really relevant in that world. And so, obviously, depending on which direction CD Projekt Red decides to go in, it'll be very fascinating if they continue V's storyline. Which one of these endings is going to be canon? What's going to continue into the next title? It's going to be really fascinating. And what I think would be really interesting is if they do continue V's story in Cyberpunk Orion, what if whichever ending you chose and whatever path you took, that translates to the following title in Cyberpunk Orion, where you as the player really get to make that choice, and then whatever choice you make in Cyberpunk Orion, you see it that plays as canon. It'll be really interesting to see if CD Projekt Red decides to go that direction, or if they want to make the choice for all of us as to what is canon. It'll be really fascinating, guys, and I would love to hear your thoughts about it in the comment section down below. Which ending did you like the most? Which ones have you done? Which ones have you not done? And like I said, I'm going to be doing a breakdown of all of these different endings in future videos, and I would love to hear your thoughts about it in the comment section down below. And at the end of the gameplay, watch my next Cyberpunk 2077 video. And if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure that you leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, just keep grinding, and as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.
Gonna miss our little escapades.
Me too. On the other hand, though, who said this one was our last? V, look around. Look at them. They could be your family.
Panem, what do you...
Stay in camp. Join us.
This life? It's not for me, Panem. This life, I'm not cut out for it.
Bullshit, you don't know that.
I do. I'm telling you now.
All right, V. I shouldn't drop bombs like that on you right now. I just thought, forget about it. V, you have to tell me what is happening. The blood. You were out for hours. What's wrong?
Panem, it's getting worse. Every single day.
Okay, V, relax. Take it bit by bit. What is happening? Exactly.
You know Johnny Silverhand?
Yes, they sometimes play those oldies on the radio. Why?
That's just it. Johnny's alive. He's sitting in my head.
He's what? Am I not... Is this some sort of strange metaphor?
Long story. Got a job, fucked it up. Now Silverhand's personality construct's sitting in my head.
Bullshit!
Yeah, well, he's not too happy about it either. Turns out we don't really mix. And it's getting worse.
You are not joking.
Just trying to live with it. Survive, actually.
It's certainly not doing wonders for your health.
I gotta go. Feeling better. Really.
Back to what we were saying. I will not even pretend to understand. I don't think it has even sunk in yet. But I am serious. How can I help?
Honestly, not a clue.
But there has to be something. Someone who can...
Remember Hellman? He's the one who created the personality construct tech.
That's why you wanted to get him.
But it was a dead end. Now I have to figure out where to go next.
You'll find a way. And once you do, let me know. I will help. This whole family will help. Saul was not joking. You understand?
Thanks, Panem.